Hello everyone, it is Garrett or Sweepy bringing you a Wakanda roster review video. I've been meaning to make a video for quite some time, especially post CarlCon. This is not the roster I ran at CarlCon, but it is something very similar. I would say if you've watched any of our previous videos, you probably have seen or heard me speak about that roster. I'm not going to go too much into that. I actually would really like to talk about this new roster that I've seen kind of peeking up and peeking around. So this is not something just to get this out of the way immediately that I came up with or that I kind of found. This is something that was given to me by Liam Watt and Jack or Mighty Fat Beard on the Discords. This is something that they kind of worked on and off, and I think someone else helped them with it, and I apologize. I don't remember that individual's name, so if you see this video, I don't mean any ill intent there, but one of the things that I wanted to touch on is that Spirit of Wakanda is once again possible. So if you're not familiar, Spirit of Wakanda is one of Wakanda's probably best cards. Very awesome art, first and foremost, but it is just a really cool card. So an active card where you can spend 2 power, and then you get to pick one of the 3 effects bulleted below. What we're really going to focus on is the very bottom one, which is all other allied characters within range 2 of this character gain 2 power. So it is just a huge tempo gain, and one of the ways that we used to do this was with the banned card Advanced R&D. Hence, it kind of went away for a little bit. It wasn't seen as very popular. In fact, I was very down on it while using something like Wong to meditate, or not meditate, meditate and then Faithful Assistant to give a power over to then pay for it. So that wasn't seen as very good. You're giving up some activations, you're giving up some actions, and therefore you're kind of losing out on what the card's benefit was, which was really high tempo play. There were some people I talked with, such as Will, who definitely still believed in it and had some very variable success with it once that change kind of happened. But one of the things that I didn't really like was that you were losing out on a lot of those early game activations. So something that has kind of changed in recent history is Ultimate Spider-Man. He is in the 4 slot, which is actually really beneficial to us. So a lot of what's going to hinge on this is that he fits really, really nicely with Wong in that 17 threat situation. So at 17 threat, you can run, King T, Mbaku, Okoye, Wong, and Ultimate Spider-Man, which really lets you hit a pretty solid fighting core of 3 models between King T, Mbaku, and Ultimate Spider-Man. And then you have kind of one defensive model and one maybe more of a sidekick model or shitbag, depending on what you want to call it, what community you're in. But Wong can really kind of help with some situations. So why do I think this is better than it used to be? 17 threat is probably our weakest threat in the game. So before this, we were really running 2 3s, mostly Luke Cage and Zemo. I ran like Luke Cage and Gorgon and Zemo, things of that nature at CarlCon because I wanted a little more list flexibility. So really being able to double down on attack redirections with my splashes I found was good. But in this case, I really do think you probably want to keep that Zemo in here just because he ends up being very pivotal, probably a little bit more than Gorgon would be. But I wouldn't fault anyone for playing Gorgon. He's a great model in this faction. Rerolls and additional modifications from Mbaku with that wild equals hit leadership is very good. So we're not going to go into the nitty gritty of that. One of the biggest things I really wanted to touch on is kind of the theory behind the list and why I think it works a little bit better. So currently, my crisis set is Fisk, Intrusions, and Wedding Parties for my secures, and then I'm running Spider Infected, Struggle for the Cubes, and I've actually pivoted off of the other F extract of Terrigen Miss for Unexpected Guest Crash the Royal Wedding. So something very good about the double F and N setups for these maps here is really boiling down to how they interact with Spirit of Wakanda, how they interact with going up on extracts and creating an extract divide that really benefits you. So with how we have this thing set up, you can actually dive all of these, one of them in your back opponent's setup, very easily and end up stealing one of their back extracts and safely getting back to your side of the board at 17 threat. You can do this at 18 threat if you want to upgrade Shuri or upgrade to Shuri, and then at like maybe 19 and 20 threat, you probably end up playing something different. So that's one of the reasons why these are more of your traditional I would say Wakanda Fighting secures. You have Fisk, Wedding Party, and Intrusions, just to really still enable you to do what you want to do and fight on those really well. So you're not losing out on those. You still have your King T and Baku, Okoye, Red Skull core for your fighting, so you can still really fight well. You know, you put in your Zemo, your Luke Cage at 19 on Intrusions, and you're kind of set. Um, you know, at 16, you just go with the pretty traditional King T, M'Baku, Okoye, Red Skull core. You're really happy with that. And then at 20, you can kind of determine if you need to pivot here, but running something like King T, M'Baku, Okoye, Red Skull, Ultimate Spider-Man is definitely possible. You could pivot into a Wakanda or a Spirit of Wakanda plan with something a little different, you know, picking up something more akin to like a 6 wide roster. You can go a little bit taller if you would like to. This would really kind of sketch me out on wedding parties. You're kind of thin in terms of your defenses there. But this, on the other hand, is something I could see myself running decently well. Decently frequently might be another way to put it. So I think that there's a good little bit of flexibility here. The list is missing Nebula, but one of the things that I wanted to also pivot to is just to show how this setup kind of works. It's been a while since I think most people have done this type of setup and how it works. So I've taken the terrain off of the map just to make things a little bit easier to see. So what I like to do personally with this type of setup is really make sure that you can set your models up in a way that's going to allow you to get the most value out of them. So the way that Spirit of Wakanda works is you want to be able to get your models where they need to go. So putting these models down like this, you know, you might actually end up losing out on a little bit of that value because, you know, Okoye sits just slightly too far away. So you might want to really go like base to base, base to base, and base to base here. And that should get you in that range too. So something that you can now do is you can essentially, you know, like let's say we go power phase here. Wong meditates to gain a power, spends 2 with Faithful Assistant, and in this setup, I do truly think you give it to M'Baku. Yes, he's probably not going to be your favorite to spend this power on early, but then he spends it, and suddenly all of your models are going up into a huge parity point, and then on an F map like this, Wong can easily... Oh, need to unsnap that. He can easily reach this extract here with his last action and pick it up. So this enables you to still score. You're not losing a round of scoring out of Wong. You know, you're not opening your opponent up. Yes, they can go take the middle. And if they have a safe grab, they're more than welcome to do that. You know, you're actually probably fine with that. So let's say we go here. Your opponent now has to pick which one of these they want, and it truly actually doesn't matter which they pick. Miles, with his long move and range 3 place, will be able to reach the other one. If they choose to, you know, interact here and put someone on the midline, King T has his bound online, so he can walk forward, bound, and punch someone. So, you know, let's say they, for some reason, take this one. Ultimate Spider-Man can run, and then he can web swing to here. And he is now within that range 1. So he can pick this up. So it is a little terrain dependent. It is a little tight on those measurements, but you are very able to do that. So it's a very nice way of going up, breaking that extract parity. And now he still has a movement left, so he can also just choose to move backwards. Something you might want to do here, so we'll reset Mr. Spider-Man back to the middle here. We'll reset these as if no one has picked them up. And of course, we'll move Wong's off of the board just so we don't lose track of things. You know, let's say you are really wanting to make sure that you are getting where you need to go. Something that I would strongly encourage you to do is do your placement first. So I did it in the inverse fashion there. I wouldn't recommend doing that in all honesty. You don't get as much benefit to the way that a long movement tool works versus a the other side of it. So here you can actually like really maneuver your model, make sure you get there, but as long as you are dead center, you can easily get these. If you want to kind of show your hand a little bit more, which I do think is fine, you can still get to them if you're not perfectly set. So this allows you to really get where you need to go, uh, and then get back. So you can get quite a long ways with a long move, with a range 3 place, just to kind of get there. And then once again, like if someone is on the other side of this, let's say this and Baku would be one of their models, King T is in a phenomenal position to run forward, bound range 2, and go hit him. He's going to take damage. He's going to probably take quite a lot of damage if anyone touches the midline, because King T can essentially get to the other side of this. He can get as far up as he really needs to, and then he's throwing 8 dice. He's re-rolling 2. He's just doing his job of doing a lot of damage, earning that extract is what I like to call it. And then, maybe your opponent just doesn't have a response. You can always come back here, pick this one up with Okoye, and you're fine. Um, so a lot of this does hinge on Spirit of Wakanda being able to, kind of create that tempo for you round one. Something that I've noticed, I've played about 5 to 10 games of this. I think I'm at like the 8 mark, if I remember correctly. Um, you really want to do this plan when you have priority. If you don't have priority, it becomes very difficult. Things you probably want to look out for is those more grunt extract grunt specifically heavy lists. They do create a bit of a parity issue. So if you're up against Nick Fury, if you're up against the ninjas with Shadowed Lance, Daredevil, or Elektra, things of that nature, you want to be very careful just because they can go pick up both of these back too immediately. But if they do, you're probably still fine. So let's once again do a quick reset here. Let's say it is a situation where you're wanting to do something a little different. Maybe they do pick up both of those back ones after you do your first kind of move. Um, you can easily just go take the middle with your Ultimate Spider-Man, and you'd be fairly happy with that. You're still safe grabbing, and then you can still start to set up that dive. You have priority. Something very important to remember with that priority is you can do a lot of shenanigans with it. So, maybe you let them pick up both of these back 2 cubes. They're over on their side now. Uh, Ultimate Spider-Man with his abilities will be able to walk long, jump range 3, and then he's throwing a 7 dice pull attack. So if he hits that wild, he is pulling you. He's probably dealing a good little chunk of damage. And he's a fairly defensive character. So adding those 2 dice, making him deal 7 or throw 7 dice is a big deal. Slowing someone and pulling them towards you, also kind of a big deal. And it gives you just a little bit more of that push, that control. So this, between these 3 models here, you have, what would that be? 3 pulls, a couple of throws on these 2 spenders, and then you have a really good spender in Mastered Venom Blast. In my games, it has been very common to have a round 2 of Ultimate Spider-Man getting to throw 7 physical dice, followed up by 8 energy dice, while still getting to move that range 3 stick after it's all said and done. Just because I've been pretty flush with power, pretty flush with cash is a good way to think of it, and being very hard to just drop in one. You also get extra benefit from the Mbaku leadership with his clapback attack, so moving forward short and then attacking range 2 is pretty solid. Every time you do that, you're effectively spending 2 power to get 1 extra action, and Wakanda's already really good at abusing the amount of extra actions we get in a single game with Wakanda Forever and things of that nature. So I really am enjoying this list. Like I mentioned, you do have the ability to pivot pretty well. Let's say you're not on this type of an extract setup. Let's say they have something different. You end up on maybe your Intrusions, or you end up on, what would this be? Fisk and cubes. That's a very different type of setup. If they go with the 17 threat, you're still pretty happy going with what you have. If they go for that 16 threat, it is a little bit tighter. You can't run the Spirit of Wakanda, but you're still probably pretty happy going Red Skull Master of Hydra and picking things up of that nature. Even if it's just something very traditional, you end up on Fisk, you're really probably still happy with what you've got going on. So a lot of interesting things, very, very interesting roster concept that at first, I will be honest, I was skeptical of, just because I think it's good to have a healthy level of skepticism when someone presents you with a new roster idea, just to make sure it's not like a 1Z, 2Z game situation. So I do think this has got some solid legs to it, some solid play to it. I'm excited personally to give it a shot after I kind of get back into it after this winter into MCP, and you'll probably see me playing this on stream, hopefully sometime soon. Um, that's most of what I have to talk about. I don't have a very traditional Wakanda roster video coming out anytime soon. Hopefully, after WTC, I can talk with the roundtable once more. But it's really going to kind of pivot around those holiday times and things of that nature, just so you're aware of what to maybe look out for from me in the future. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you would like more of this content. I think that's the traditional YouTube thing to do. And thanks for tuning in.